Hey everyone! So let's be honest. The most popular novels right now tend to be the fantasy, science fiction / dystopian type of novels. But sometimes it's nice to return to reality for like 2 seconds because for people like me, I would much rather live in the fantasy type of world. But knowing that I can't actually live in that kind of world is very depressing. So sometimes it's nice to return to the more realistic type of romance novels because A, it reminds you that the real world actually does suck and I can connect to that. But B, sometimes good things actually do happen in the real world. So for today I found 3 novels that were pretty similar that had that realistic kind of romance. Not really realistic fiction, but that realistic romance that you don't often get. Usually the romances are so just perfect and held up so high. In reality, they're a lot harder than what they're shown in the books. I chose a couple of books that were similar to If I Stay by Gayle Forman, which is the first series I will review. So for If I Stay, there are actually 2 novels in that series. The first one, of course, is If I Stay, and a lot of people don't know that Gayle Forman did write a sequel to it called Where She Went. So the setup of this novel is actually pretty cool. So Gayle Forman took the present, which is Mia going with her family to visit some relatives, and they end up in a car accident. And Mia ends up in a coma, and she's having an out-of-body experience. And in between all of this, there are flashbacks of her past memories with her family, and most importantly with Adam, who is her boyfriend of about 2 years at this point. And as she's going through the confusion of the car accident and dealing with loss, she's also remembering how her relationship with Adam has came to be. You know, the good moments, the bad, and particularly the bad moments. It shows how awkward transitioning into a relationship actually is, which I like. Usually for novels, they just show them immediately jumping into a relationship and not really struggling to transition. But Mia and Adam have a very awkward time trying to adjust to being more than just friends. And then it also shows how hard growing up can put a strain on relationships and having to deal with going to college. Because those kind of things can actually tear relationships apart, and a lot of novels don't touch base on that. And fair warning, you will probably cry at this novel. I was that person who was listening to the audiobook at work, so I was trying to hide in the shelves at the library so that people wouldn't see that I was bawling. So the second novel is called Where She Went, and for about the next 30 seconds, if you don't want spoilers on what happens in the first one, you might want to close your ears. But Where She Went is in the point of view of Adam this time, and it takes place 3 years after the car accident. And what happens is Gayle Forman also sets up this novel in the same way he did If I Stay. And the past tense is showing memories of what Adam has done since that accident, leading up to the present when he has actually run into Mia again and they are sitting there talking. I don't want to give any spoilers about what happens in this book, but once again, it's brilliantly written, and I love the way Gayle Forman takes a past tense and mixes it with the present tense. There were a lot of moments when I got so frustrated at this book, I wanted to throw it against the wall, but I didn't. But I'm glad I didn't because this book was amazing and it's worth reading. So the second book I wanted to review is The 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. I am in love with this book. This book was brilliantly written just like Gayle Forman. It was a different kind of format, but instead of going between past and present in the form of just memories, basically this story is about Hannah, who committed suicide, which you found out right off the bat, and she put the reasons why, which of course there are 13 reasons why, she committed suicide into the tapes and sent them out, and the first person on the tapes got them first, and then he had to send them to the second person on the tapes. It's very devastating, and although these characters were fictional, I wanted to smack each and every character that said something cruel towards Hannah. But you follow along, like I said, the point of view of Clay, who doesn't understand why he's on the tapes because He wasn't someone that bullied Hannah, he just had a huge crush on her. And this novel is so realistic because it's so contemporary in this age of suicide and bullying being such a big problem. But I don't want to educate you, so I'm just going to tell you to seriously check it out. And also, if you read it and you really like 13 Reasons Why, another book to check out is The Tragedy Paper by Elizabeth Laban. And once again, it's a story on tapes where the main character is listening to these tapes about something that happened in the past, but he is also going through something in the present. Now, the third book that I'm going to talk about is Fangirl by Rowell. This book is incredible. I will say that about any of these books, but this book focuses around college, which a lot of young adult books actually don't talk about, surprisingly, because even though young adult focuses on teenagers in high school and middle school, there are teenagers that are going to be going into college and they want to know what it's going to be like or read stories about it. Or then there's the lame college kids like me who still read young adult, but I want to read about young adults in college. But it shows how college is hard, especially for awkward, shy people like me. But it follows along the story of Kath and her twin sister. And when Kath and her sister go to college, her sister wants to kind of branch out and do her own thing. And that leaves Kath alone, who is very shy and struggles at making friends. But eventually she meets a guy and they start a relationship, but it shows how awkward it can be as well, just like If I Stay. Kath finds a hard time struggling to transition from just being friends with this guy to being something more, and there's a lot of fighting and it's hard for them to transition. The novel also shows how Kath is struggling, like I said, to make friends, and so she relies on a hobby of hers that she had in high school, which is writing fan fiction. And it's also a lot like the other two books because it's kind of cool because it takes that fan fiction or the actual book that she is supposedly writing fan fiction from and puts it into chapters. So you actually get to see what she's writing fan fiction about, which is Simon Snow, which is basically another rendition of Harry Potter. And Rowell takes Harry Potter and kind of turns it into Simon Snow because that's a huge fandom. But she struggles because she doesn't think she can write outside of writing fan fiction, but she's taking a creative writing class. It shows how college involves a lot of moving past what you did in high school into learning new things and having new experiences in college, and how hard that actually is to give all that up. But like I said, all three of these books are a great read, and I highly suggest you check them out. And if there are other books you want me to do for Read Alike Thursdays, just leave them in the links below. Just give me a book and I'll find some books similar to it and I'll go ahead and review those. Other than that, just make sure to subscribe and I'll see you next week.
Bye.